Everything changed in a matter of seconds, right? I mean, welcome to another explainer from NFL Nexus. Look, before we pull back the curtain on this massive, franchise-altering decision that could literally rewrite the identity of one of football's most storied defenses, I need you to do a few quick things for me. Hit subscribe, like this explainer, and definitely comment your thoughts down below. Oh, and if you want to truly master the gridiron and get access to the league's most tightly guarded secrets, you gotta support us by becoming a channel member today. Okay, are you ready? Let's step into the shadows of a front office that's currently at war with its own legacy.
So here's the burning question. Will the Pittsburgh Steelers actually break up their elite edge duo? Just let that question hang in the air for a second. Really feel the immense weight of it. Because for years, the entire foundation of this organization is rested squarely on the shoulders of the men rushing the passer. That's just a fact. But right now, a single, cold, purely mathematical front office choice by General Manager Omar Khan threatens to fracture this historic defensive line. It's the kind of decision that's going to echo through the franchise for the next 10 years.
The current reality inside the Steelers facility, honestly, it feels exactly like a ticking clock right now. Under the watchful eyes of Mike McCarthy and the incredibly grueling demands of Patrick Graham's defensive system, the sheer gravity of modern NFL roster mathematics is violently colliding with on-field loyalty. This isn't just about X's and O's anymore. We're talking about survival. Survival in a league where the salary cap takes absolutely no prisoners. It's a league where one single contract can literally force a team to abandon the very players who built their culture from the ground up.
We are literally looking at a dynasty, at an agonizing crossroads. When I first started digging into the granular details of the Steelers' legendary defensive identity, man, it hit me just how incredibly fragile the whole thing is right now. We're talking about a standard forged over decades, right there in the cold mud of Western Pennsylvania. But suddenly, that unforgiving standard is threatened by the equally unforgiving realities of cap space. Because the truth is, you can't pay everyone. You just can't keep everyone. And when you try to secure your distant future, you almost always have to sacrifice your present.
$100 million. Take a breath and just say it slowly. Let the sheer magnitude of that figure sink in. This exact number is the absolute financial catalyst for the entire impending crisis we're looking at. It's the massive 4-year, $100 million extension that was just recently handed out to 24-year-old rising star Nick Herbig. I mean, it is a staggering, eye-popping amount of money for a player who, honestly, up until now, wasn't even the primary face of this defense, and it changes absolutely everything.
Just visualize Omar Khan's dilemma here. Look at this dramatic contrast. On one side, you've got Alex Highsmith. We're talking about an established, elite, truly dominant force who has just wreaked absolute havoc alongside TJ Watt, a proven, terrifying commodity, right? But then on the other side, you have Nick Herbig, the $100 million rising star, just absolutely brimming with explosive youth. The thing is, you cannot have a $100 million asset sitting third on your depth chart. The math simply does not allow it. I mean, the tension in that locker room has got to be palpable as these two phenomenal talents look at the same side of the ledger.
So the crucial question is, why? Seriously, why on earth would you pay $100 million for a player who is, technically speaking, a backup? Well, as I looked into the specific, highly calculated mindset of the Pittsburgh front office, the answer actually became glaringly obvious. They looked at the market. They saw Herbig's explosive potential, and they absolutely refused to risk his price tag climbing even a single dollar higher. But here's the catch. In securing their future, they inadvertently created a massive, suffocating financial logjam at the edge rusher position. Something, eventually, has to give.
Enter the outside noise, because, as we know, the rest of the NFL is always watching. A highly controversial trade proposal by Bleacher Report's Mo Moton currently has the entire league buzzing. And you know what makes this so fascinating? It's how it deliberately pulls a desperate, bleeding franchise directly into the Steelers' internal drama. It targets a team that's basically watching their season slip away due to devastating injuries and front office miscalculations. A team staring down a glaring need at edge who's willing to pay literally whatever price it takes to fix it.
That team, of course, is the Green Bay Packers. And let's methodically break down their absolute desperation here, because you have to look at this exact fallout. First, they inexplicably trade Rashawn Gary to the Dallas Cowboys, which instantly creates a massive void on their line. Then, the devastating blow. Superstar Micah Parsons suffers a torn ACL and meniscus damage. He's been placed on the PUP list, meaning he's physically unable to perform and is completely out for at least 4 games, and let's be real, likely compromised for much longer. The Packers are in a full-blown edge crisis, and this catastrophic timeline, it's forcing them to look directly to Pittsburgh for salvation. So what's the proposed compensation for Alex Highsmith? A 2027 Day 2 draft pick? Seriously, let that sit with you for a second. A second or third round pick 3 full years from now in exchange for a proven, elite, game-wrecking star. You're essentially trading a known, terrifying force on the edge for a complete unknown, a literal ghost in the draft class of 2027. It is a terrifying gamble, one that essentially trades immediate Sunday afternoon dominance for abstract, distant future value.
But we really must pivot seamlessly from the cold, calculated statistics of this proposal to the human element. Because what happens to a locker room's culture when loyalty is traded away for cap space? Alex Highsmith has bled for this team. He has strictly adhered to the standard. If Omar Khan ships him off to Green Bay just to alleviate the pressure of the Herbig contract, what message does that send to every single other veteran in that building? It whispers, in a hushed, very serious tone, that absolutely no one is safe.
To truly understand the absolute gravity of what is at stake here, I realized we have to shift our narrative back in time. We literally have to look at the genesis of the exact defensive standard that Omar Khan is currently gambling with. Let's go to 1987, the arrival of Hall of Famer Rod Woodson. Now, this wasn't just a draft pick, okay? It was the establishment of an unbreakable defensive bloodline, a standard of excellence that spans from his 1987 arrival to his 1993 Defensive Player of the Year campaign, all the way down to this exact modern crossroads we're facing in 2026.
Listen to this quote for a second. Going to Pittsburgh was the best thing for me. Woodson actually delivered this with such deep gravitas on Cam Hayward's podcast. See, his arrival from Purdue wasn't a simple transaction. It was the birth of an enduring professional foundation. It was that precise, magical moment a wildly talented young man met the exact, rigorous structure required to mold him into an absolute legend.
And you know what's wild? History is decided on razor-thin margins. Here's a crazy fact that absolutely blew my mind when I uncovered it. The New Orleans Saints were completely ready, waiting with bated breath to take Woodson at pick number 11. They had literally told him he was their guy. They were locked in. But the Steelers, picking just one spot earlier at number 10, picked up the phone. They asked a simple question, and in doing so, changed the entire course of their franchise and, honestly, NFL history forever.
The young defensive back from Fort Wayne, Indiana didn't just walk into a facility. He stepped into a crucible. He was immediately surrounded by the ultimate architects of the standard. You had Chuck Noll, the legendary head coach, demanding absolute perfection. Tony Dungy, commanding the defensive staff with tactical brilliance. And then you had the lingering, intimidating presence of former greats from the dynasty years just walking the halls. In this high-stakes environment, raw ability simply wasn't enough. You had to have the mental fortitude to match those physical traits.
And this right here is the smallest, yet arguably the most crucial detail of Woodson's reflection. Talent requires structure. Pittsburgh didn't just give Rod Woodson a platform to run fast and hit hard. No, they surrounded him with older, hardened veterans who explicitly and sometimes quite ruthlessly taught him what true professionalism looked like. They basically built a cage of discipline around his wild talent, forcing it to focus, to sharpen, and ultimately to become lethal.
Because of that structure, Woodson became the complete defender. We're talking elite speed that could literally cover anyone on the field. Terrifying return value that flipped momentum in a heartbeat. The defensive versatility to seamlessly transition to safety later in his career, all anchored by just elite, bone-jarring tackling. These are the granular traits that made him a completely unique 11-time Pro Bowler. And make no mistake, this is exactly the legendary, versatile dominance that the front office is demanding from TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Nick Herbig today. The ghosts of the 80s and 90s are absolutely watching the edge rushers of 2026. Talent has to be developed in the right environment. This quote dramatically bridges the gap between the past and our current crisis. And I really have to wonder, if you trade away a foundational, culture-setting veteran like Highsmith, do you shatter the very developmental environment the Steelers spent decades meticulously building? I mean, think about it. If Herbig is left without Highsmith's mentorship, does that massive $100 million investment suddenly backfire?
This is the ultimate, agonizing battle that is currently playing out behind closed doors inside the Steelers' front office. It is cold, hard, salary cap logic versus the delicate, fragile ecosystem of locker room culture. So what do? Do you take the Green Bay Packers 2027 draft pick to clear out financial space and balance the books? Or do you reject the trade outright, swallow the luxury tax, and fight tooth and nail to keep the brotherhood and the culture completely intact?
Because the Steelers actually have a historical, 3-step formula for creating legends.
Step 1, identify rare traits. Step 2, build the impenetrable environment. And Step 3, transform those raw traits into Hall of Fame production. This precise, incredibly delicate process is at severe risk right now. If they carelessly dismantle their current edge-rushing trio just to satisfy a spreadsheet, they may permanently break the machine that built Rod Woodson in the first place.
And compounding all this intense pressure are the really alarming recent reports leaking out about the Pittsburgh defense. Because despite all the massive contracts, a glaring weakness remains on that side of the ball that absolutely must be fixed before the playoffs. It honestly baffles me. I mean, how can an organization look its fans in the eye and willingly lose a star starter like Highsmith right now when the defense is already showing these critical cracks in the armor?
So I really challenge you. Look at the roster right now and ask yourself, does the 2026 defense truly measure up to the legacy? Can the current defensive leaders, guys like Watt, Fitzpatrick, and yes, Herbig, can they keep this organization's historic, bruising identity intact under Patrick Graham's new, demanding system? And can they do it while actively navigating the suffocating anxiety of these massive front office trade rumors?
Not every star player believes the team that picked him was the right fit. Woodson clearly does. Just let that realization absorb for a minute. In today's cutthroat era of $100 million contracts, constant holdouts, and blockbuster blindside trades, having true franchise loyalty and a perfect developmental fit is an absolute rarity. It just doesn't happen. You do not throw away a perfect fit just because the numbers on a page tell you to.
And that brings us right to the ultimate, franchise-defining decision that Omar Khan must make in the coming days. Will the front office protect the legacy they spent 50 years building? Or will they pack up Alex Highsmith and sell a piece of their soul to the desperate Green Bay Packers for a draft pick in 2027? This isn't over yet, not by a long shot. The clock is absolutely ticking.
The decisions made in the next 48 hours will undoubtedly alter the course of NFL history. If you want to master the gridiron and follow every agonizing twist of this story, you need to subscribe to NFL Nexus right now. Seriously, like this explainer, go down to the comments and tell me, should they trade Highsmith or should they hold the line? And if you want the deepest NFL analysis on the internet, support the channel by becoming a member today. We'll see you next time.